What's up everybody? Andrew Mahone here with Darium's Competitive Pokemon. Going to be doing a Crimson Invasion set review today. Set drops on November 3rd and it is super cool. It's got a lot of neat Pokemon in it. I think a lot of the Pokemon cards that are in that set will change the way that our game is played and will bring some new archetypes into existence. So I am excited about this set for those reasons. Now, you can check the comments below. I did do a GX ranking from Crimson Invasion a few weeks ago on Darium's main channel, so if you didn't catch that video, you can check it out. It's in the comments below. But for this video, I'm going to be doing a whole set review. So Darium just opened a couple of boxes of Crimson Invasion. Pretty sure I got all the cards that I consider to be worthwhile out of those boxes. They actually pulled each of the 8 GXs in his 2 boxes. So that's pretty cool. And just got them here for you. Going to be going through them, talking about, which cards are worth picking out of your blister packs if if you're getting some blisters, or which cards are worth ordering online from an online store. I think in general, I was actually pretty disappointed with the depth of this set. There are a couple of like super fire cards. I mean, like your Buzzwole GX, your Kartana, your Nihilego are all super cool. I mean, even Silvally or Silvally GX is really good as well. So I think that there's like some top end tier 1 good cards in this set that are going to see play. They are going to change, some things about the metagame, like definitely. But then as you go down the list, there's just not a lot of super game-changing cards in this set as far as commons and uncommons go. The trainers are all kind of but I have picked out what I consider to be the best cards from Crimson Invasion to talk to you about them here. And we're going to start off with one of my favorite Pokemon of all time. There are a couple cool things in here, I will say that. I just didn't think that the set was super deep. There's not like a lot of like cards that are going to just be ubiquitously good, like, like Field Blower, Rescue Stretcher, Trainer's Mail, you know what I mean? There's none of those in the set from what I could see. But, we'll see how the set has an impact later on. My first card that I have for you guys is actually this Mawile, and I think that this Mawile is super cool because it's got a call for family attack. Now, this used to be a kind of thing that was used in the game a while back, that you would have these basic Pokemon, kind of like Alolan Vulpix, just to set up your deck. And Alolan Vulpix is being used for that now. But what Mawile does, for one colorless energy, this is a basic Pokemon, is it does call for family, which is search your deck for up to 2 basic Pokemon and put them onto your bench, shuffle your deck afterwards. So, in a little bit of a different way than Alolan Vulpix, yes, this costs an energy, but it is a colorless energy, so it can be splashed into any deck. But if you put the Mawile up and you call for family and you get 2 basic Pokemon, then they will be ready to evolve on the next turn. If you've ever started, an Alolan Vulpix without a Bridget or something like that, and then you have to call for family in order to get, 2 Rowlet or 2 Ralts or something like that, it's actually really rough because then you just have to bench them next turn and you have to wait one more turn to evolve them. Now, I think that Mawile is more or less outclassed by Bridget. Most decks are going to be going for a turn 1 Bridget to obtain the same thing that Mawile would. However, if you can imagine a format where maybe Bridget and maybe the family, you know what I'm talking about. Pokemon Fan Club, that's it, Pokemon Fan Club. So imagine a format without Pokemon Fan Club and without Bridget. All of a sudden Mawile starts to look a little more attractive because there might not be any great way to set up your deck. Sure, you could, play a bunch of nest balls, but Mawile is kind of a neat little way to be able to set up your Pokemon, get the things that you need on the first turn of the game. It's not a game-breaking card, but it is neat, and I think it's not outclassed. I think this is the best call for family card in standard format right now. It's only got a retreat of 1 and 80 hit points, so that is pretty rockin'. Then, it does have a second attack that allows you to flip a coin, and if heads, discards an energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. It does 30 damage, so that's not too bad either. This next card I'm super stoked on is Miltank, just because I love Miltank. I think this thing is super dope and actually has some potential in standard format, as a healing card. So if we look at Miltank, 100 hit points, it's got this ability Moo Moo Malt, and it says as long as this Pokemon is your active Pokemon, whenever you attach an energy energy card from your hand to one of your Pokemon, heal 90 damage from that Pokemon. This is also a colorless Pokemon, so it's splashable, could be put in any deck, and has sit down splash. Flip a coin. If heads, this attack does 30 more damage. So, I mean, what? You could do 90 damage for 3. You're probably not going to want to attack with this thing. However, that Moo Moo Malt's ability is super sweet. I could imagine this being played in a deck, maybe where you are able to attach a lot of energy from your hand to your Pokemon per turn. Gardevoir GX, right? So in a Gardevoir GX deck, you could play 1 copy of Miltank, and maybe if you like Guzma something up, you promote the Miltank with a Floatstone on it, and then you can like, you can use your ability to just put as many fairy energy into play as you can, maybe a DCE, something like that. And if you attach just 2 energy during the turn that you Guzma and put this thing active, you could heal up to 180 damage from your Pokemon during that turn, and that's insane. Because this, it's just whenever you attach an energy from your hand to one of your Pokemon, you get to heal 90 damage. So, as many times as you use that ability to attach energy to your, to any of your Pokemon, you're going to be healing 90 damage. And then the double colorless energy, whatever, the attachment for turn, you could heal a lot of damage in 1 turn with this card. So maybe in order to accommodate for that, if you were going to throw this at a Gardevoir GX deck, you could play more than 2 Floatstones. You could just play like maybe 3 Floatstones to give yourself that mobility so that it actually becomes a live play more often. And maybe you play like 3 copies of Guzma as well, just so that you have more opportunities throughout the course of the game to use this Miltank. I mean, this Miltank could very well be the answer that Gardevoir GX needed to be able to beat cards like Buzzwole, to be able to beat cards like Decidueye, right? Who are trying to devolve their Pokemon and take them out that way. Also, I mean, metal decks can use this too. Metagross could use this in the same kind of way, just to heal off that annoying snipe damage from decks like Decidueye, Ninetales, and Buzzwole, which is going to be legal shortly here too. Let's see, I've also pulled out Type Null, just because Type Null evolves into Silvally GX, so Silvally GX is pretty good. I'm also going to pull out Silvally GX, so we could just talk about both of them right now while we got them out. So, Type Null and Silvally GX. Type Null is 110 hit point basic, so I like that. This is a big, beefy basic that evolves into a Stage 1 Pokemon GX. That's pretty cool. A lot of the Stage 1 Pokemon GX are evolving from little mini Pokemon. I'm going to talk about like Vulpix, Eevee, some weak stuff, right? And this thing evolves from somebody that's got 110 hit points, so that's pretty sweet. Like Type Null, he is a holo rare, so the reason I pulled Type Null out is because if you happen to pull a Type Null, keep it, because then you could play your Silvally GX if you happen to pull one of those too. It's got 2 attacks. Armor Press. During your opponent's next turn, this Pokemon takes 30 less damage from attacks, and Slashing Claw. Probably not going to be using those attacks too terribly often. I think the coolest thing about Type Null is that he's got 110 hit points, and he's a pretty sweet looking holographic Pokemon. Silvally GX, on the other hand, is super cool. It's got this Gyro Unit ability that gives all your basic Pokemon in play no retreat cost. So that is awesome. I mean, just increases the mobility of the entire deck that this thing is in. That is super cool. I mean, you could give things like Drampa free retreat. You could give things like Yveltal EX free retreat. You could give things like Volcanion free retreat. Just having free retreat's pretty cool. I'm not sure that it'll go in any of those, go with any of those, but it's a nice little bonus to have. Turbo Drive. For 3 energy, attach a basic energy card from your discard pile to one of your bench Pokemon, 120 damage. It's like a pretty decent attack, but there are other good accelerating attacks out there in standard format. And just after seeing that amazing Solgaleo GX that was just revealed, that for a double colorless energy does 120 damage, and you accelerate 2 energy from the discard pile, and it's got a better ability and giving all of your opponent no weakness. I mean, geez, like, sorry, man, but Silvally just got taken down a notch in my book after seeing that Solgaleo and just thinking about how good that card will be in standard format. The Silvally just kind of pales in comparison. I'm not sure that Silvally is going to be able to carry an entire archetype on its back. Now, there are these little things that go with the Silvally. You got these memories, right? So I'm going to go ahead and grab these memories to take a look at those. You've got a fighting memory and a psychic memory. So these are worth mentioning too. When you attach either fighting memory or psychic memory to your Silvally, it makes it that type. So you can make your Silvally fighting type with this tool card. You can make it psychic type with this tool card. I don't think that either of those is like super relevant. I mean, making it psychic type, you're going to be hitting what, like Espeon EX for weakness. You know, okay, you'll hit Buzzwole for weakness, which is really good actually. But, you know, I also don't like the idea of having to get 3 energy onto this thing. It's just like a little annoying, you know, and I'm just not totally sure where it's going to go. Maybe you play, like, you could play a 1/1 line of this thing in Volcanion to give your Pokemon free retreat. Like, that seems pretty cool, actually, just because, you know, these Pokemon in Volcanion are really heavy, and with all, you know, the space that you take up playing Floatstones and things like that, you could play a Silvally. However, Volcanion plays 4 Guzma and like a couple Floatstone. You probably don't need to waste any space trying to get the Silvally out there just to give you free retreat. However, it is worth mentioning that Silvally does have, you know, that pretty good attack. You know, you can turbo drive and accelerate to your benched Volcanions if you wanted to, but, you know, Volcanion is just the best big basic deck in format right now, and I don't think that Silvally really fits too well in Volcanion. Maybe it does as a 1/1 line, something like that, but I don't think Silvally is super needed in Volcanion. It's going to be better off in a deck that plays double colorless energy anyway, but, you know, maybe I'm wrong. I think a lot of times in Volcanion you want to save your valuable bench space for, you know, your Volcanion EX, for your Tapu Lele. You don't want to just have another GX in there on the bench that's not Volcanion so that you can't just boost your damage output. So maybe it does get played in some sort of fire deck. Fire is the best big basic engine right now in standard format, and I could see it there for that. In expanded format, I feel like this thing, you know, just gets way too outclassed really to see much of any play just by the other options that are there. Just being a fighting weak Pokemon GX, I mean, just seems rough, you know, with things like, you know, Marshadow, Night March, and just, you know, it doesn't do enough, I think. It does have that GX attack, Rebel GX, you know, that's pretty decent. Just doing 50 damage for each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. It's the same thing as that Lycanroc, but it's not really game-changing enough to warrant. I do also like this little Registeel here. Registeel, cool card. It has 2 attacks, Turbo Arm, 30 damage. Attach a basic energy card from your discard pile to one of your bench Pokemon. Pretty dope. 130 hit points. It's got Iron Hand. That's not that great of an attack. 90 damage. And if Regice is on your bench, heal 30 damage from this Pokemon. But, you know, it is a basic Pokemon. Does 30 damage, kind of like Oblivion Wing did for Dark Pokemon. And accelerates energy to metal. So, hey, I thought I'd mention it. A cool card to come out of this set is Counter Energy. Counter Energy is pretty sweet. It says this card provides 1 colorless energy. If you have more prize cards remaining than your opponent, and if this card is attached to a Pokemon that isn't a Pokemon GX or Pokemon EX, this card provides every type of energy, but only provides 2 at a time. So what's interesting is that Counter Energy, you know, only works on non-Pokemon EX, non-GX, but it does provide 2 energy of any type when you are behind on prizes. I think this thing actually goes really cool in expanded format in that, you know, that Necrozma Garbodor deck that everybody was playing in expanded format with Dimension Valley. You could slap this thing onto a Mew and you get the same kind of effect that you got out of double colorless energy. I mean, you could slap this thing on a Mew and you could copy Necrozma's attack to do, you know, Black Ray GX, but you could also put this on Mew and you could use Necrozma's first attack as well, and you could discard it and it does, you know, like 130 damage that way. So like that's pretty cool. You could do, you know, rip a nice little attack that way with your Mew in expanded format with the Dimension Valley, just being able to pay 1 less energy to pay those attack costs. And, you know, I mean, it'll take some looking, but you could really look around in all of expanded format and just see, you know, what attacks can Mew copy with this Counter Energy with Dimension Valley in expanded format. There are some cool things that maybe would cost 2 regular energy and 1 colorless energy that Mew in combination with Dimension Valley would be able to copy. So it's going to be worth looking into for that. Going along with that logic, we also have Counter Catcher. I don't think this card is super good just because it's too, I think, situational to be really played that heavily. But it does say you can only play this card if you have more prize cards remaining than your opponent, and switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with one of their active Pokemon. So it's a catcher effect, automatic Pokemon catcher for when you are behind on prizes. That is, you know, very situationally useful. But I think it could go maybe in a deck that plays something like Puzzle of Time so that you could bring it back at the right time. Otherwise, I feel like you'll just, you know, end up sycamoring this thing thing and it won't be useful at the right time. I think trying to pair together the perfect moment to play your counter catcher, you're just better off playing another copy of Guzma and just having access to it whenever you have it in your hand. I don't really see counter catcher as being too terribly good. Unless you're playing, you know, something that can bring items back, you know, from the discard pile, maybe like Puzzle of Time, just so that you then have the perfect opportunity to use it at that point. But, you know, even then, I think Guzma's just going to be a better card almost, you know, 10 times out of 10. The best supporter in this set is Lusamine, so let's talk about Lusamine for a little bit. Lusamine says, put 2 in any combination of supporter and stadium cards from your discard pile into your hand. I actually really like this supporter, and I think it's very good. It's not very good in expanded format. I don't think in expanded format you just got Versus Seeker, so you don't really need this thing at all because you're just going to Versus Seeker for your supporters back. And then you could use things like Puzzle of Time if you absolutely need to get stadiums back. I don't really see too many expanded format decks playing this card to get their stadiums back, like maybe a Primal Groudon deck, like maybe, but I don't really think so. I don't really see that working too hot. So Lusamine, going to be better in standard format though, where we don't have Versus Seeker, and most decks, unless your name is Decidueye or Gardevoir, do not really have the option to bring supporters back from the discard pile, or unless you're John Roberts playing Puzzle of Time in your Vikavolt Bulu deck, which is something that he did at Connecticut. So Lusamine, put 2 supporter cards or stadium cards, you know, any combination of those into your hand. That is pretty good, just because I know how valuable Hollow Hunt is, right? So just knowing how valuable Hollow Hunt is, having played Decidueye for the last few weeks, I can really imagine this as a one-of supporter in some decks, just so that you could get that 5th and 6th end back, just so that you could get that other Guzma back from the discard pile. And I love that it puts them into your hand and instead of into the deck, so that it is at the end of the game, this could be a game-winning card, just getting you that final end and that final Guzma you need to close things out. I do like it for that. I think it will see some play, maybe in some decks sometimes, but I don't think it's going to be necessarily a ubiquitous card. I think some decks could get away without playing it, but, you know, some decks will decide to play one. I don't really see any decks playing more than one of this thing, but at least it does have a unique effect, and it is, you know, somewhat valuable. So I'm going to pull that out for standard format. Then we also have Devour Field. This is what I consider to be the best stadium card in the set. There is that other stadium that, you know, doesn't take away special conditions when people evolve and stuff, but I don't think that's all that great. Maybe in an expanded deck like that plays Hypnotoxic Laser. No, because then you're just gonna play Verbank. I don't really see it being very good at all. This Devour Field though is unique in that it gives Darkness Pokemon and Dragon Pokemon, both yours and your opponents. It does 10, their active Pokemon, your active Pokemon, both do 10 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. So I said that a little confusingly. Let me say it again. The attacks of Darkness Pokemon and Dragon Pokemon, both yours and your opponents, do 10 more damage to the opponent's active Pokemon before applying weakness and resistance. So it is a little damage booster to Dragon-type Pokemon, you know, that is unique, and it is a little booster to dark type Pokemon as well. So, you know, these decks have seen, these cards have seen, you know, like niche play in some dark archetypes, and some, you know, if there are, you know, some dragon archetypes, you know, it could see play in those decks just to help you hit the right numbers. It is at least valuable for that. It doesn't immediately fit into anything in particular in standard format from what I can tell right off the bat, but it does provide a unique effect, so we'll keep it around. Additionally, this Magikarp, wanted to take a little bit to talk about this. You know, Darium is very excited about the Magikarp. The art on this thing is pretty cool, but the Magikarp does have a fairly useful ability if you were going to be playing some sort of Gyarados deck. Submerge, as long as this Pokemon's on your bench, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks, both yours and your opponent's. So it's got that little barrier-like ability there. We do appreciate that. Not that I think that there are any Gyarados decks that are super good in standard or expanded format right now, but, you know, it's nice to know that we have a Magikarp that's good now. So this is probably the best Magikarp in expanded format in existence. So we are going to hang on to this thing just in case they ever print a really good Gyarados. We do have the right Magikarp to use. Moving on to the rest of the Pokemon EX, Pokemon GX, there actually are no Pokemon EX. Moving on to the rest of the Pokemon GX, we got Buzzwole GX. Buzzwole is my absolute favorite card in this set. I think this thing is sweet. Reminds me a lot of Landorus EX, which was able to carry me all the way to a regional championship back in 2015. So I love it. It does, you know, for 1 fighting energy, does 30 damage to the active and 30 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Just love that little 30-30, just like Latios from Shining Legends. I think that's a great sniping attack. Combined with fighting Fury Belt and strong energy, you're going to be able to do some massive jet punch attacks. You know, with fighting Fury Belt and a strong energy, you are going to be doing 60 damage to the active and 30 to a bench. So that really takes care of like Vulpixes. It really takes care of things like Ralts. You're going to be able to go very aggressively early. Beldum gets knocked out if you have fighting Fury Belt and a strong energy. So that jet punch does a great amount of damage, you know, very early, very aggressive card. And then actually I was testing with this thing a little bit ago and was extremely surprised at how often you're actually able to build up that Knuckle Impact and that Absorption GX. If you could get a quick Absorption GX just by kind of running your opponent off the field early with Jet Punch, taking out a lot of little things, and then Absorption GX just, you know, to just go ahead and just take out a huge threat early on. Even if you've only taken 2 prizes, it does do what, 4 times 4, how many remaining prize cards? Yeah, so 4 times 4 is going to be 16, so it does 160 damage. If you've got like 2 strong energy on this thing, you're doing 200 damage even if you've already taken 2 prizes. So it can ramp up pretty quickly, as can Knuckle Impact. I mean, Knuckle Impact, I guess, also does 160 damage for 3 energy. So, you know, but that says with the added effect of this Pokemon cannot attack during your next turn. So there's that little drawback there. If you've only taken 1 prize, Absorption GX all of a sudden becomes an insane attack because you're talking, you know, 4 times 5, that's 200 damage. And then if you have a strong energy on it, 220. If you have 2 strongs, 240. The thing can do a lot of damage. Love that Buzzwole GX fighting type, got 190 hit points, hitting that Drampa for weakness. It does have a psychic weakness though, which is a little sketchy just because Garbodor is psychic type. It Trash Lance Garbodor is making a comeback. However, pair Buzzwole with Garbodor. You know, you got yourself a pretty good tier 1 sounding kind of deck right there. You know, Buzzwole, Garbodor, Potown, the works. And this thing is pretty good. Go ahead, try that out. Let me know what you think of it. I think Buzzwole, definitely a tier 1 contender in the upcoming standard format. Moving on, we also have Kartana GX. Kartana GX is a nice little metal Pokemon. This thing is going to go very well in metal decks. It's got a sweet ability, Slice Off. When you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench, during your turn, you may discard a special energy from one of your opponent's Pokemon. So an automatic Enhanced Hammer just when you play this thing to the bench. Gotta love that. Gale Blade for 1 metal and 2 colorless. You may shuffle this Pokemon and all cards attached to it into your deck. 70 damage, so a nice little hit and run attack. You could Gale Blade to knock something out and then shuffle it into the deck. And then you have the option to use Slice Off again since the card went back to your deck. So it does have some useful kind of synergy there. And then Blade GX. Amazing GX attack. Just take a prize card. 1 metal energy, take a prize. Super, super sweet. I love this, you know, the idea of this in a Metagross deck. Metal is getting a lot of support down the line. I mean, we got Kartana GX, we got that new Solgaleo GX, which I'm going to end up doing a video on here eventually. Coming down the line, I mean, Solgaleo GX is going to have a lot of potential. The other one that does 230 damage, thanks to the new Solgaleo GX that accelerates and prevents weaknesses. Kartana GX added into the mix. Metal has got a lot going for it right now. It's a very exciting time to be a Metal Pokemon, especially since Gardevoir GX is proving itself to be one of the top decks in standard format. So, love this Kartana. A lot of times your opponent will try to force you to take a 7 prize game. Kartana GX just makes it so easy to just take that 1 prize. You know, if your opponent is trying to promote a EX or GX for you to knock out and you only have 1 prize left, you could just do that little Blade GX and win the game easily that way. We also have Nihilego GX. Nihilego GX is probably like my favorite GX Pokemon so far, just because I think this thing is sweet. Look, it's a jellyfish, it's like a ghost thing, it's got some stars on its head, and I don't know why, but I like it. And it's got some pretty cool stuff going on. Empty Light, when you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench during your turn, you may leave both active Pokemon confused and poisoned. So we got a nice little auto confusion, auto poison ability there. That is pretty cool. If you're able to get this thing back up, you could reuse it throughout the course of the game. Then it's got 2 attacks. Lock Up for 3 psychic energy. The defending Pokemon can't retreat during your opponent's next turn. 120 damage. That's a little underwhelming, not gonna lie. I'm not super stoked about that attack. With Guzma in format, the opponent has a lot of ways to be able to get out of a lockup. And then there is Symbiote Symbiont GX. Add the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck to the prize cards. That GX attack is nutty. That is totally insane. So Symbiont GX adds 2 prize cards to your opponent's deck. Now, if you were able to pull this off, relatively early, that would be very good. However, I will say that GX attack is going to be a little rough to use, since it does require that you get this Nihilego out, which is like kind of awful. Like the Nihilego itself, the ability is cool, right? And the GX attack are cool, but I'm not super excited about that lockup attack. So you're going to be getting this thing out. You're going to get 3 psychic energy onto it, and then you're going to put it in the active position, add 2 prizes to your opponent's field. But then you got this a Pokemon that's relatively weak out here in the active position. Your opponent is probably just going to take those 2 prize cards right back pretty quickly by knocking out the Nihilego GX. So I think this thing has potential, but I'm not exactly sure where it's going to fit in standard or expanded format. It will find a home somewhere, I'm sure. That's a very powerful GX attack, but all those psychic energies, I mean, what? And you're going to pair it with Metagross, so you're going to accelerate a bunch of psychic energies thing in a Metagross deck. We've already got a lot of other one-ofs we're adding into Metagross. I mean, you're playing Kartana GX. Maybe if you're playing the Magierna GX, if you're worried about Decidueye devolving you, you're going to have that Solgaleo down the line that you're going to have to play as well. So, I'm not exactly sure where this Nihilego is going to go, but it does seem powerful, so I am going to mention that in my set review. And then the last 4 Pokemon GX I do not think are very promising at all, unfortunately. We got Guzzlord here. Guzzlord, just his attacks cost way too much. I mean, unless you're at a pre-release. If you were at a pre-release, play this thing, okay? Pull it, play it. Put this in a deck with 39 under other darkness energy, and you'll win every single pre-release. I promise you, okay? Unless you're playing the Guzzlord Mirror, because eat sloppily for 1 darkness energy, discard the top 5 cards of your deck. If any of those are energy cards attached to this Pokemon, you would have to start your Guzzlord, because you're gonna have to start the basic that's in your deck. And then when you eat sloppily turn 1, you're gonna have a darkness energy in your deck, because you have 39 other darkness energy in the deck. You're gonna eat sloppily, and you're gonna attach them all to Guzzlord. And then turn 2, you can start using Tyrannical Hole for 180 damage. Just 180, 180, 180. And then to win the game, you can Glutton GX, which says if your opponent's Pokemon is knocked out by damage from this attack, take 2 more prize cards. Just won the pre-release, right? I mean, that's insane. So yeah, if you're at a pre-release, play this little guy and you'll probably win. It's got 210 hit points for a basic GX. That's insane. Otherwise, I'm not exactly sure that Guzzlord has what it takes to be a stable archetype in standard or expanded format. Glutton GX is an insane attack, but it is just so costly. How are you realistically going to accelerate to this thing unless you're using Eat Sloppily to do so? I just don't exactly see how that is going to be playable anywhere else. For the rest of them, Gyarados' attack's just way too costly. We're just talking about the fact that, Guardy is like one of the best decks in format, and then you've got a 240 hit point Pokemon, which is awesome. Stage 1, I mean, a new high for Stage 1s. That thing is insane. But, Draconic Disaster costs 5 energy, man. Like, you're just serving up the knockout to a Gardevoir GX deck. And then its basic is Magikarp. It's only got 30 hit points and can easily get devolved and knocked out by a Decidueye deck as well. So, Gyarados kind of falls by the wayside. Alolan Golem GX, your attacks are way too expensive, man. Heavy Rock GX is kind of cool in that your opponent can't play any cards from their hand during the next turn, but I'd rather just be knocking them out with that 200 super electromagnetic tackle attack. And unfortunately for lightning types, this is not just a super good stage 2 lightning type. Attacks cost way too much. And then Alolan Executor GX is actually like the most interesting, I think, of all the EXs and GXs that I just mentioned there at the back end that I don't think are very good. But, ultimately, the Tropical Head, that Snipe attack doesn't do enough. Tower Go Round, you get to move all your energy around, but, and do 180 damage, but it just doesn't seem worth it. And then Dragon Hammer, your opponent's active Pokemon's confused for 4 energy, 120, not feeling it. But that's it for my very long Crimson Invasion set review. Let me know what you guys think of Crimson Invasion. Are there any cards that I missed? Maybe there are. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. Peace.